Good evening, ladies and germs, and welcome to Spooky Town Tales. We are into Season 2, that's right, Season 2, Episode 2, 2-2. Toobity tap tooby. It is I, Morgana, and joining me in the pseudo studio this evening is James. Who the hell is James?
Disgusting.
He hates it when I call him James.
She does it on purpose. I love to tease him.
It's Jimmy. If you haven't worked it out, James is Jimmy. That's his Christian name.
Ain't nothing Christian about
Ain't nothing Christian about it, or me. He's buried that name long ago. He's now Jimmy. Jim Bob Jimbo. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you. Good evening, all.
Do you know what we're talking about this evening?
Chips, hopefully.
Chips?
Chips.
You've already eaten all the chips.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah, I have.
Nope, there's one left. Maybe two. Here's the chip monster. Anyway, enough about the chips. Tonight, folks, we are getting in the Yuletide spirit of things, and we are discussing
Christmas miracles.
Christmas frickin' miracles. We are discussing... How did they pronounce it? Krampus?
No, grandpas.
Krampus.
Lots of grandpas.
We're discussing Krampus. I always thought it was Krampus. It's Krampus, is how you say it. Krampus. If you haven't heard of Krampus, you'll know tonight who the hell Krampus is.
Who's your grandpa?
Krampus. It was Grandpa. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Krampus, which is a very creepy Christmas tradition legend from Europe. We're going to be discussing some ghost stories, as per the norm. I'll be sharing some with you. We're going to cover a thing called the Night Marches, which I'd never heard of.
What's a night march?
You will find out, Jimmy.
Excellent.
You and everyone else.
I'll wait here.
You'll wait here. And we'll also be talking about, very briefly, the Jersey Devil.
Ooh.
Because the Jersey Devil has a lot of similarities in appearance to Krampus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're going to sort of try and correlate the two. Maybe not. Not related, but I just thought it would be witty. I don't know. I'm really run down at the moment, so I'm not making much sense. But we are sharing a Friday beer, which we do every Friday. We have a beer, and we are, in theme, having a Blue Moon beer, which is a Belgian white beer. And a lot of the subject matter tonight is from that region of the world. So we're in theme, and I'm actually drinking my Blue Moon from a Bierstein.
You certainly are. That is quite the stein.
Do you have a stein? A stein of delicious beer? I hope so. Get comfortable, folks, and prepare to be spooked. With Christmas just around the corner, folks, we're on the countdown now of, 2 and a bit weeks? 3 weeks? Or 3 weeks.
They always sneak up on you.
It does. It comes out of nowhere. Before you know it, your bank account's empty. Careful.
Sorry.
Your bank account's empty. You're a bit stressed out. School term hasn't even finished yet, and apparently you're supposed to have already finished your goddamn Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
But it is a really good time of year for parents. Do you know why?
Why?
Because you've got the bribery option.
Oh, but of course.
We all know what I'm talking about. We've got Santa. Good old Saint Nick. Good old Saint Nick. And now we've got elves as well that can keep an eye on naughty children. It's the only month of the year where you can literally just say a name of someone and get your kids to stop being assholes. But if that's not working for you,
Turn it up.
if Santa doesn't work, And if the elf on the frickin' shelf doesn't work, I've got a little story you can tell them. An old-timey story that's still told today to European boys and girls. The story of Krampus.
Dun, dun, dun.
Krampus is a little buddy pal of old Saint Nick.
Oh.
He works with Saint Nick.
Oh.
He comes from Central Europe. He's a horned figure, described to be half goat, half demon, who, during the Christmas season, punishes children who have misbehaved.
Oh.
So while Saint Nick tends to the well-behaved children,
He goes around beating the crap out of the little bastard.
Krampus deals with it, and that's exactly what he does. Krampus would swipe wicked children and stuff them in a sack
Whoa.
and take them away to his lair. Not always, though. That's just the super little... If you've got a little shit.
Yeah, you've gone too far.
Yeah. So he carried birch sticks, which he would use to whack the children.
Right.
Also chains. So the whole story of... It has changed. Krampus has evolved.
Has he? Yeah.
With European
Yeah.
culture to suit modern times.
Modern times.
It's been influenced by pagan things. Like the birch is a very phallic symbol,
Right.
and chains are associated with binding
Yeah.
evil spirits and things. So it's all symbolic,
Yep.
and it's all sort of evolved into what Krampus is today.
Yeah.
So it's said, another theory which is derived from an illustrator, or there's some thing of recent time who's come up with the theory that Krampus is the son of Hel, which is a Norse goddess of the underworld.
Really?
So that's the theory, that he's her son. The other theory is just that it's the devil himself.
Yep.
But he is a perfectly reasonable figure who works with Saint Nick. They have a chat. So who's been a little shit? Who's on the naughty list? Give me the naughty list.
Here
I'll
you got a
deal
list
with them.
for me, little fella.
And then Saint Nick goes, off your trot. Good, thanks, bud. I'll see you same time, same place next year. So that's how it works, apparently. Every year, coincidentally, it's either the 5th or the 6th of, so it would be occurring right now in Eastern Europe, is Krampusnacht, which is Krampus night,
Yeah.
where people dress as Krampus and parade through
Really?
villages and towns and scare the absolute butt shit Christ out of kids.
Wow. Just
Yeah.
to turn it up for the last month. So you
Oh,
get a
yeah.
cruisy month at the end of the
But
year.
you know what? Some of these costumes,
Yeah.
look it up.
Yeah, they're
Some
pretty
of them
intense.
are intensely incredible. Like just they go all out,
Wow.
but it is rather frightening.
Yeah.
Far out. Imagine being a little kid
Yeah,
on
you
Krampusnacht. Krampusnacht. I'm probably saying it wrong. But this is a thing. If you have a misbehaving child, tell them of Krampus. Tell them if they're naughty, a horned, goat-like man creature with red skin and fangs will come in the night, and if they're really naughty, he'll stuff them in a sack and he'll take them away to hell.
Wow.
This is what German children hear, and other Eastern European. Not all of them, I don't know, I'm not going to generalise, but
It's a thing.
maybe this is what's needed. I mean, kids have got a bit out of hand these days. We've got a bit soft. Maybe Krampus should be like in the shops, like the Santas
Next to
are.
the Santas.
There should be horned goats holding sacks
Should
of
be
birch.
in it. August 23rd.
Yeah. And then we'll have well-behaved children for the whole second half of the year. It's not such a bad idea. What do you think? Do you think Krampus should be a part of all Christmas?
Should just improve
It should
the
be
back
as
nine
common
of the
as
year.
your mistletoe and your holly and your holly jolly. I mean, he's the balance. It's all about balance. That's what Krampus is. It's the balance of
Yeah.
Saint Nick. And that's where the story comes from. Needless to say, I'm pretty sure German children, and I'm sure they're well behaved this time of year.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't be with the threats of this? There are actual stories of people who claim to have had run-ins with the real deal.
Yep. Yep.
Which, if you'd like to hear some, just look it up. There are some, some pretty good ones out there.
Yep.
I'll give you a brief one that I heard of. It's it made me giggle.
Yeah.
So it was a family. I do believe they were living in the US, but they were of German descent, so I think they'd immigrated.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this particular son, the little boy, who wrote in the story to this particular show and said, I'm a bit of a little shit. I was an absolute shit of a kid. Horrible, ungrateful, little brat, spoilt rotten.
Yeah.
And the bane of his parents' existence. And he was horrible, he reckons, until this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't believe. He often was threatened with Krampus by his parents and just was like, it's not real. Fuck off, it's not real.
Yeah.
So his little brother, or his older brother, got pissed off with him one day, and they were at like a holiday house where there was snow and forest around the outside. And he said, let's play hide and seek. So they went outside and he said, I'll seek. And so the brother, the little shit one, who's telling the story, ran out into the woods. He's like, I'm totally going to just keep going and he'll never find me.
Yeah.
So he did. He wandered off too far. And the brother actually had gone inside and locked the door. Because he wanted to teach his brother a lesson. He said, he's going to stay out there in the cold for hours and I'm not even going to look for him. So he went inside, sat down and read a book or played a video game, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So after about an hour, this guy's like, oh, shit.
I suppose I should do something about
Where
it.
is he? Like, why isn't he looking for me? Or, haha, I've totally won. But then he realised, hang on, I haven't even heard him.
Yeah.
Then he heard, like, heavy footsteps behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And thought, oh, shit, he's found me. But then he said it was really loud, like hoof like an animal. And he thought, oh, God, what kind of creature's out here?
Yeah.
It was getting darker. And then he heard, like, this twigs cracking. And he heard a loud thud and turned around. And up on the hill above him was this massive, hairy, horned thing.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
So he screamed, piss bolted back to the shack, doors locked, starts crying and screaming, which freaked out the parents and the brother because he reckons he never cried, never called out, like he was just an asshole.
Yeah.
But he was begging him, like, please, let me. So naturally the parents open the door thinking, oh, you know, what's happened? He's been injured, what's happened? And he tells them what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Krampus. And they're like, oh, come on, don't be stupid. The parents are like, you're being ridiculous. Oh, of course, yeah, right on, whatever. Gave him hell for it. And so he said ever since that day he's been incredibly well behaved and never again was he ever, I mean, who knows what he saw.
Yep.
Even if he probably manifested it.
Goodness.
Who knows? He'd been out in the cold for a long time. But my other theory is it was his dad dressed up.
Stranger things have happened.
I mean, if you get to your wit's end, parents do go next level.
Yeah, they do.
So I reckon the whole family was in on it.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Have you got a Krampus story from your childhood? Or have you heard of any that are good ones? We'd love to hear from you.
It would be pretty funny being the dad if it was the dad. You'd be pretty proud of yourself next Christmas if you were still being really good.
Oh, man.
You would just be stoked.
You would all, like the whole family would just give each other a look and like a nod. You do like the,
Yeah.
Well done, team.
We're
killing it.
We might have just changed the course of history.
We might have just saved this guy's life. Yep. While Christmas is a season to be jolly, holly jolly, and merry, it is actually traditionally, especially in the English tradition, a time of ghost stories.
Oh.
Now, I was sort of aware of this, but not as much as I am now, having read up, that there is a little tradition called, what is it, wassail? Wassail? Where you drink hot mild cider. And it's a ritual that you do to encourage a good crop for the following year. Okay. But as part of this ceremony, it's basically an evening of getting completely jolly on hot cider. It's an excuse to get pissed.
Oh, especially if it's cold. That's not a bad thing.
Exactly. But you gather together with people, townsfolk. You drink and you tell stories and you go caroling. But one of the big, most popular things to do is ghost stories.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have picked that at all.
Well, just think about like the Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
That whole story is
I
about
suppose.
ghosts.
Yeah.
Christmas past, present, and future. So it is. So,
Interesting.
although it's the season to be jolly, it's still a very spooky season, folks. Yes, I found a way to make Christmas spooky.
Even
But it
better.
wasn't me. It was the Brits. They've been doing it all along. So, bear that in mind this Christmas. If you're bored and stuck on things to do with the in-laws, chuck a pot on the stove, whack some cider in, some spices, get it all nice and warm and cozy,
Nice.
even though it's 40 degrees here today. Maybe have a chilled cider. We've been doing that. We've been taking traditional things and doing an Aussie flip on it.
Unfortunately, you have to down.
You have to down here. So, have a go. Sit around with your family this Christmas. See who can come up with the best ghost story.
Yeah,
Quote some from our show. I'm happy to share. We've had some beauties.
we have.
And on that note, segue. Here's a
Good
ghost.
segue. Wow.
Here's a ghost story for you now. A young bloke and his mates had been hiking in the mountains and came across an old abandoned logging camp. These guys are in their early 20s. It was bristly cold, so they set up their tents, lit a fire, and put all their extra clothes on to keep warm. As the men were sitting there by the fire, they all got an eerie feeling and noticed a figure emerging from the darkness of the woods to the left of them. He was wearing a plaid red and black shirt and pants, carrying a silk... You'd want to hope he's wearing
Yeah.
pants.
I hate those ghosts that don't wear pants.
Pantless ghosts. Creeps. Carrying a silver lunch pail. He looked like he was straight out of the 1800s. They all looked at the man, freaked out by the fact that he was completely unfazed by the cold, just wearing a shirt and pants, and looking very old-worldy. They were all shivering by the fire, so why the hell was this guy not cold? The man then proceeded to walk through the men and continued into the woods on the other side, completely disregarding that they were even there.
No, yeah.
Very strange. It took them all about 5 minutes to realise what had just happened and that the man had walked straight through things,
Yeah.
as in
Yeah.
didn't step over
Just
items.
pass through them.
Then they realised they'd just witnessed a ghost. And then they all panicked.
Yeah. 5 minutes later. That's pretty cool.
So this is a large bunch
Yeah.
of lads.
Yeah. That's a cool one. I like that one.
And you're up somewhere remote and isolated. You know there's no one else there.
Yeah.
And this guy just wanders out with a lunch pail and a shirt when it's like you're all freezing your tits off.
Yeah.
Be pretty eerie.
It would be eerie. That's a really good one. I like that one.
I just pressed record and I was going in for a sip. Jimmy, fill in for a second.
Sorry, I was imagining you drinking your phone like Clara did the other day with a bulldog clip. It was Clara sitting there and she was eating chips or something at the same time.
And me, OCD, rolls down the bags of chips and puts bulldog clips on.
Yeah. Clara proceeded to remove and tried to smash it in a gob straight away and realised what she did and just burst out laughing. It's good when you catch your kids
Such
doing
a
that.
Jimmy thing to
It
do.
is. It's me all over. She's
But-
got the
Wait.
dreaded curse.
And they've got the dreaded choking on their own spit curse as well.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. Here's another ghost story.
Can't say I didn't give him anything.
That and your manta ray toenail.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing but useful stuff from me.
Oh dear. Let's get serious,
Sorry.
folks. Okay. The next story took place in Samoa, but it was an Australian man that this happened to.
Ooh, good link.
When he was I'm trying to keep it local. Help me out, guys. It's really hard. So, when he was a young lad, he was in Samoa for Christmas, visiting family, and they're at church, as you are at Christmas time.
Yeah.
They decided to play chasey, and so it was dark, or by this stage. So one of the lads is like, all right, I'm it. You guys go hide somewhere and then I'll come find you and we'll play, this is how they were playing it.
Yeah.
So they ran outside and there was a graveyard. Now, all the other kids that were playing were used to being out in the dark. They weren't fazed by it, but him being an Aussie and not knowing the area.
Different scenario.
Scenario, was feeling very frightened already, like just a bit uneased.
Yeah.
But he was trying to be cool and went along with it. And he's like,
As
I'll
you do
go
as
and
a
hide behind a gravestone. Cool,
Sure.
no problem, I'm not scared. So they're hiding behind the gravestones.
Yeah.
And they can hear, so all the other kids that were playing were all together in the graveyard, hiding behind the tombstones. And the guy that was in the church. Mm-hmm. And they could hear him. They thought they could hear him running up to them because he's really loud.
Yeah, right.
He was one of those rah kind of kids. Gotta get ya! So they could hear him from a mile away. They could hear him carrying on, and then nothing. And they're like, what?
He fell into a hole.
Well, they were like, what the fuck? Where is he? They thought he was coming because they could hear him coming.
Yeah.
And then he was shouting. There's all kinds of a kerfuffle going on.
Yeah.
And then it went silent. And so he's like, oh. So they went into the church and found him lying passed out.
Oh.
In the middle of the aisles. And then when he came to, they went and got the parents.
Yeah.
When he came to, he'd said he had seen his brother run into the church.
Yeah.
Like down into this, where he was.
Yeah.
So he'd run after him. And then he said he saw, as he went into that area, he saw a boy standing in front of the altar.
Uh-huh.
And from the back, he just didn't know. He thought it was his brother.
Yeah.
So he ran up to it, and tapped it on the shoulder, and it vanished as he tapped it.
Whoa.
And so he'd just gone and passed out. Fainted.
Whoa. That's pretty cool.
Super weird.
Especially when you got that much action going on.
Yeah. And because, of course, he's like raucous guy, and he's like, gotcha! And he's like, eh! And this kid just vanished as he tapped him on the shoulder.
Whoa.
Told the parents.
No wonder he fainted.
Yeah, and apparently he's been unwell ever since.
Oh.
This kid. So they believe that maybe it's a cultural thing, but they believe that whatever it was that he touched has passed something on to him. Wasn't expecting him to. He's interrupted him.
Yeah, yep. How?
So isn't that spooky? And so naturally the guy's like, well, I'm not playing chasey or hide and seek in a Samoan graveyard anymore.
It's just not on my bucket list anymore.
It's just not safe.
No more.
It's not safe. It's ghost boys that give you sicknesses. So there you go. Now, the logical person in me is now saying, if this child is now unwell and has been unwell ever since, perhaps he had an underlying medical condition and he may have hallucinated, and then the passing out might have all been some sort of a brain-related...
coincidental, you reckon?
Well, it could have been a brain-related thing or whatever the illness is. It could be affecting his cognitive abilities, and he may have thought he saw someone as a result of an illness, and then the passing out, it might have been a preemptive symptom, hallucinating before he passed out.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
That's my logic. Sorry for wrecking the spook,
but
this is what we do on this show.
No, I just thinking too, though, if he's going to be enough to reach out and touch it, I know, like you're saying, if he's hallucinating, but just to have everyone come rushing in and for him to be passed out there and then, it's just quite odd. But, yeah, that's good.
But then we've discussed about how surgeons have worked out if they put pressure on the brain, you can see yourself standing.
Yeah.
Like you can exit your perception of yourself. It can be altered. And that's science. It's not. This isn't me saying this is like sci-fi. It's legit. There's a part of your brain. If there is pressure on it, especially if you suffer from conditions like epilepsy, which could be what this young man has. I don't know. I don't have any more information.
Yeah.
All I know is that the family is very superstitious because he's been unwell since he encountered this spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
But was it a spirit?
Exactly.
Did he have an actual medical thing happen?
More so the way you're saying too with the out-of-body experience. That's a funny synopsis in that, because if he's going to tap on the shoulder, you just don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been him.
Because there is a link with that. And, I mean, people who have other brain conditions, there are warning signs of it because you do see things that aren't there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a mental illness, but sometimes it's an actual brain condition. Yeah. So there you go. That's my theory behind that story. I could be wrong.
Still a good one.
It may very well have been a little boy ghost. Would have been cooler if they'd seen someone else.
Exactly.
Like if more people had seen it.
Yeah,
but the fact that he was on his own and then he's been sick since makes me think that it was a health thing.
And especially if he's collapsed too. If that could exacerbate any head trauma.
Exactly.
If he's fainted, you don't know.
Good point. Now, while we're in the Pacific Islands, let's scooch on over to Oahu, which is where the Night Marcher legend comes from.
Ooh, what's this one?
Now, the Night Marchers are apparently ghosts, a huge parade of ghosts, like warriors.
Yeah.
Who, if you see them, you're stuffed, basically. Your soul is doomed. And on certain times of the year, you will hear the drums and you'll see the torches and you'll see these warriors there's always they always walk the same path down to the beach.
Really?
Where they then leap into the other world, into the end, into the
the
spirit world. This is the folklore.
Yeah.
So basically, you'll hear conch shells as well. So you'll hear that. Yep. So if you hear that, quite often you'll see abnormal movement in like the foliage.
Really?
And that's them passing through. But everyone that there's been many people, mainly Native Hawaiians, who have experienced them. And the theory is, if you hear that or see them, you're to strip naked and lie face down on the ground. That's your only way of not being... Now, for me, I'm like, who came up with that? Someone's waiting in the back with the camera, like, ha ha!
Best joke ever.
Yeah. So that's apparently how you avoid.
Really?
And apparently, if you're Hawaiian, an ancestor who's passed on will call out your name to protect you from them.
Okay.
In the instance of you witnessing the night marches.
So not only is it scare the shit out of you, but your rallies that are ancient rallies get to see you in the bath.
Yeah, they get to see you face down, butt out. I know. How's that, eh? But people are terrified of this.
That's crazy.
And it occurs in new moon. So when there's no moon, this is when it happens. People that have seen them have said that they'll see the trees and grass moving, but there'll be no wind or sound. So it's like everything goes silent.
Really?
When it happens. When you hear the drums, that's when you know you've got to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
So one instance of this occurring, which is a very, very spooky story, it was a tour guide in Oahu, and part of the tour was to show them where people have claimed, where historically is the walkway from the hill down to the beach where the night marchers walk.
Yeah, I know.
So he was there with a bunch of people. And as part of the tour, trying to make it spooky, he didn't know it was new moon because he does this tour all the time.
Yep.
So this was like the 50th one he'd done.
Yeah.
Unaware of the time of the month it was or the moon phase, he was standing there, and part of the tour was he gets all the tourists, all the pailangis, all the white people to close their eyes and point to where they think the path is.
Uh-huh.
So we got everyone to do that. And this little boy was very frightened.
Yeah.
But not, just very confused and very matter of fact. Looks up at him and just points at this section of long grass. And he says, they're already there. That's where they are. And he freaked out because it's exactly where they claim the traditional path of where they march.
Yeah.
He was pointing straight at it and he described the headdress and the way they look, basically.
Yeah.
Great detail.
Whoa.
This little kid. He says he didn't like them, but he said something about someone said his name.
Really?
They asked what his name was. The tour guide. They wanted to know what the tour guide's name was. And the tour guide freaked out because this little boy knew nothing of the tradition. He was a little white boy.
Yeah.
Didn't know about the naming. So they were checking to make sure that his name had been, like he was the right person or some crap. So him being Hawaiian and knowing this tradition went white as a ghost. How the hell did he know that that's what happened? Because he hadn't even got to that part yet.
Yeah.
And he said they all saw the grass started bending. This long grass, like the whole tour stopped dead because this little boy says they're there. I can see them.
Yeah.
And they're wearing, he described
this,
like they wear like, I think I've got it written down somewhere. There was 40 plus people. So they took a photo because they were like, are we really witnessing this? Took a photo of this little boy in front of this grass and behind him you can see the shoulders and face and like the headdress of a Hawaiian warrior.
Really?
And so they all freaked out and ran. Like they all ran in opposite directions. And the tour guide, because then they swear that, it could be hysteria.
Yep.
They swear the tour guide said he could hear drumming. And that was it for him. So he's bailed.
Yeah.
And he's run to the bus.
No.
The tour guide left 40 tourists that don't know Hawaii. Now, this whole area, he said there's there's drops, and it's night.
Fantastic.
And he's bailed on these 40 tourists and run to the bus, and him and the bus driver have taken off and left them.
Wow.
And he says he's never felt so bad in his life. And they got to the gate of where they'd come in, and he said, we have to go back.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
And the bus driver said, oh, fuck you, pal, you can go. I'm not going back.
He's the king.
Yeah, he's just gone, nah, off you go. So he's hopped off the bus.
Yeah.
He's gone back.
Wow.
He's rounded them up. He's had to round them up. They're all shaking and shivering and crying.
Yeah.
And he's apologised because he's like, I'm going to lose my fucking job.
Yeah, I'm
No one's going to believe that there was anything here. And in the meantime, apparently the photo deleted itself.
No.
Which, who knows, maybe in the...
Always.
Always, I'm like, yeah, right, there was no photo.
Yeah.
But maybe. So, in the meantime, that's happened. They all get on the bus. They're all freaking out. And he's just like, what the hell just happened? And, they're all completely terrified. And he's still a tour guide, I believe. So he hasn't lost his job. I suppose it's a pretty exciting tour.
He got a pay rise.
He probably did get a pay rise. It's become the most popular tour in Oahu. So there you go. That's what the night walkers are. And apparently the walk is quite long. So it's not just this one. That's just where it ends.
Yeah.
It's where they jump into the ocean.
How crazy.
Yeah. So there you go. Have you ever heard of this? Yes. So night marches is something I'd never heard of.
No.
And I love that I keep getting surprised because I do know an awful lot on this subject. I read a lot about it. I love anything spooky and weird and obscure. So I'm challenging you, listeners. This is a little bit of a giveaway, a little bit of a little treasure treat for you. I'm in the mood for giving as it is a season of giving. Write to me on the Southern Paranormal page. Message me directly on my private page. I don't mind. Either way, Morgan Bug, look me up. Send me a message with the weirdest story you've ever heard. Now, it could be anything at all. Creepiest. It could be about a monster or just a weird coincidence or a weird person. Just something like that you just go, what the hell? Now, if you can shock me and I haven't heard of it before, I will send you some goodies.
Nice.
You will get a little parcel of goodies in the new year. I will send you a little new year bundle of spooky love.
Spooky goodies.
Spooky goodies from the Spooky Town Tales team. And I'm really... And I get carried away. So if I commit to this, which I am going to commit to this, it will be spectacular.
Wow.
So, write in. If you shock me, not only will I announce you on the page, but I'll be sending you a box of goodies and I'll be sharing said creepy story on the show, anonymously if you want.
Wow.
So get your stories in. Now, it doesn't have to be your story or someone you know. I'm talking about just weird legends that you've heard.
Yeah.
And if I've not heard of them, or if I'm just think it's the coolest, creepiest story, you will win some goodies. And maybe there may be more than one winner. If I get enough entries, there'll be more than one winner. But I would really love to be shocked, and I really want to, because it's not often. It is the season to be giving and spooky. So go for it, guys. So right into the Southern Paranormal page. Message me on there, or share it straight on the page, on the wall. You're welcome to do that also. Write to me and tell me your tales. Our last story of the evening is the Jersey Devil. Now, this isn't a very obscure legend. This has been going on in the New Jersey area, Jersey, wherever it is.
Jersey.
In that area, in the Jersey area, southern Jersey, there we go, for just forever.
New Southern?
Hundreds of
or
years.
Old Southern?
Just southern.
Middle Southern?
Now, this honestly, it's so weird. It's one of those weird legends, hundreds of years. So it started in the 1700s.
Wow.
And it is still people are still claiming to see the Jersey Devil to this day. To the point that someone tried to stage a hoax recently.
Oh?
They got a photo of, I'm pretty sure they'd taxidermied up some creature to look like fused some animals together.
Yeah.
And then chucked it up and took a photo of it flying, quote unquote. When anatomically, when you can see the wings and the size of this thing, it's like those wings can't hold those hefty legs.
Physics, yeah.
It's not gonna work. That's ridiculous. So, yes. And even all the paranormal people from the area were like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
So, the Jersey Devil. Have you heard of it, folks? Because if you haven't, you will have. In precisely 7 minutes when I finish the show. You'll be an expert.
Wow.
So, the Jersey Devil. The legend begins in 1935. Mother Leeds is pregnant with her 13th child. Whilst in labour, she shrieked out, "Let it be the devil!" The baby was born normally at first, but began to metamorph into a dragon-like creature.
Whoa.
Now, the legend goes, it then flew around the room, punched all the women in the face.
It's very selective.
Yeah. Cursed all the women. And then flew up the chimney and into the night.
Wow.
Now, this is a story that literally has been passed down through that family. To this day, the ancestors still share it as though it's gospel. This is what happened. This is what the Jersey Devil is.
Wow.
Whereas more logical people are saying the child was born disfigured, had a birth defect of some sort.
And they're rid of it.
Probably. I mean, it was her 13th child.
Yeah.
So in those days, in the 1700s, if a child was born with any birth defect, which, let's be honest, with all the modern marvels of medicine to this day, it's very common for children to be born with disfigurements and birth defects. Some of them you can't even, there's no cause for it.
Yeah.
It just happens with babies.
Yeah.
It's a genetic thing. It happens with animals, all animals, and we are animals effectively.
What?
And there's just some things you can't control.
Yeah.
And in the 1700s, people were so superstitious. So when a poor little baby was born that was sickly as well, they'd believe, I mean, you look back in the story of the Fae, which I will share a show about.
Ooh.
The Fae believed if you had a sick child or an unhappy child, that it had been swapped out with a fairy baby.
Really?
So if you had an unwell child, quite often the theory was you would leave that child out in the woods so that the fairies would replace it with, they'd take it away because it's not your baby, it's a fairy baby.
Right.
That's what used to happen. So it was very sad to think how many poor little babies were considered to be monsters because they were disfigured. So that's, I think, how the story came about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously throughout the years, through 300 years, it's gotten
Twisted warped.
like Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end there. So people have claimed to see a gaunt horse-like creature with hooved skinny legs, a forked tail, a long horse-like face, and wings in this Jersey area.
Really?
For 300 odd years. They claim it kills livestock. It frightens children and adults all the time. Apparently people see it. It's so weird.
That is weird.
So even so far, like hundreds of years after the original story,
Yeah.
in the 1960s, the towns, like the whole people in this area,
Yeah.
offered a $10,000 reward
What?
to capture the Jersey Devil. There were that many sightings.
Come on.
And it was like, apparently they blamed it for all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
back in the 1700s, they blamed it on failed crops,
Yeah.
on illness, on just anything that went wrong was blamed. The Jersey Devil did it.
Yeah.
But this is in the 1960s. They offered this reward.
That's pretty crazy.
But I suppose we still haven't come very far from then.
No, admittedly.
If you think about what was going on in the it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But in that area in the 1960s, the ignorance was still pretty ripe.
Yeah, it was wildly different.
And if you've got this society that's rich in this folklore,
Yeah.
you grow up with it from your grandparents to their grandparents.
Yeah.
You are very much
Going to be drawn along.
you're
with
going to
it.
get drawn unless you're removed from that environment.
Yeah.
If you're in that environment, you're going to believe it as gospel.
Absolutely.
And that occurs even to this day.
Throughout time, forever. It's going to keep happening.
It'll always be there.
Yeah.
But that, I think, may have something to do with it, but I just find it bizarre that it was so far after the fact. Like, it was hundreds of years after.
Yeah.
I mean, in the middle, there'd been the odd sighting here and there.
That's pretty impressive
But
to
it's-
have such a big impact of such a
They were seeing something. There was something going on.
Yeah, but
whether or not it was the Jersey Devil or another form of predatory animal that they were blaming and thought it's easier,
Yeah.
well, this folklore exists, that's what it must be.
yeah.
Because there was loss of a lot of cattle during that time. Now, I would be interested to look at what wild animals and wild carnivores are there.
Yeah, you'd have to have.
There must be large carnivorous animals. We're Australian. We don't know geographically what
stuff
kind of
is lying
predator. I
around,
mean,
yeah.
our biggest carnivorous mammal is the dingo in
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
So there may be wolves. There may be
Oh.
bears. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what are they called? Mountain lions, that sort of thing.
Bobcats.
Bobcats. Swamp snakes.
No, we get that.
We get swamp snakes. Should I explain that? No.
Go on.
I was going for a walk with my dog. Let's change the subject for a minute. I was walking my dog as I do every day and came past some little tackers, some little lads, and you could tell they're up to mischief because the second I got level with the creek, the Nonnycup Creek, their heads like spring out from the creek. I'm like, oh, shit. I could see their bikes and I'm like, and I literally instinctively just went, oi, what are you up to? And he goes, this little kid up to his knees in water, he's like, we're looking for swamp snakes. And I was like, you're looking for what? And he's like, swamp snakes. There's a lot of swamp snakes around here. That's exactly how he said it. Gotta look out. Gotta be careful. And so I just like air high-fived this kid. I'm like, yeah, be careful of those swamp snakes.
They'll get you.
They'll get you. Funniest kid ever. And then they went about their merry business.
Yep.
They're up to mischief, that's for damn sure. Anyway, back to the Jersey Devil. So in 1991 to 2008, there were more sightings.
Really?
They had basically, this is like calls to police and everything.
Yeah.
Described it as a man-sized dragon thing with red eyes.
That's crazy.
Yep. Now, like I said, in the colonial days, any bad luck was blamed on this thing. Mm-hmm. I put that down to just ignorance. Because, in 1901 there was earlier, before the 1960s, there had been so many sightings to the point that they had made like a curfew, so kids were locked indoors.
Really?
Yep, schools and factories were closed for a week during this. There was like a big spike of sightings.
Really?
Yep, and even the police and mayor of this area claimed to have seen something flying around.
Really?
So, like, high up members of society, respectable members of society, had claimed to see something outside flying around. And so the whole town was in hysteria.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty crazy. And it's impressive.
I just can't believe the schools.
Yeah.
It was that.
For a full week, like factories to close down.
All the kids kept inside. They weren't allowed to go out for a whole week.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So this is how much these people believe they're seeing this thing. Now, there are still modern-day sightings, and there are still people out looking for this thing. One modern-day sighting I will read you now.
Ooh.
So, young bloke in his teens was in his house. He could hear screeching and banging in the basement. Like proper, like screeching.
Whoa, that was
horrible
impressive.
screech. I'm part Jersey Devil.
Oh, okay.
Like horrible demonic screeching. No idea what the hell. I mean, imagine hearing that and banging. So he's thinking there's a burglar.
Something pretty
or like a drunk man or someone on drugs. This is in the 70s.
Okay.
So he grabbed his sister and he ran outside. Just instinctively, need to save my sister.
Yeah.
Good lad.
Yeah.
Went outside. The dad's, what the hell? What's wrong? What's going on? And he said, there's someone in the basement. There's banging, really loud banging and screaming and screeching, horrible noises. So the dad thought, right, there's a burglar.
Yeah.
He grabbed his gun, told the kids to stay outside, could hear it from the front door. So he's already gone, okay, this is real. Yeah. Grabbed his gun. He could hear banging and screeching. Goes downstairs into the basement and the whole place was completely smashed up. Mm-hmm. So the coal chute was open as well, and he said that just downstairs was completely trashed.
That's pretty crazy.
And what freaked him out more was all the windows were nailed shut on the inside, so there's no way an intruder can get in. The only way in is to fly in through the coal chute.
Interesting.
So that night, his mum and dad decommissioned and ripped out the coal chute and sealed it up with wood because there was no one in there when he got in there, but he could hear it as he opened the door. So somehow whatever was in there got out, and the only way it could have got out is by flying up the coal chute. So he's like, it was the fucking Jersey Devil. But that was his...
But if that's the answer to most people from the area, that's really weird, that one.
It is weird. I mean, what else? But then, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Morgan, Brainy McBrains, raccoons.
Yeah.
They make horrible noises.
Anything.
And they make a mess. And in that area, I'm sure there's raccoons in that area. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think there is still a Jersey Devil, man, demon, horse creature that was born in the 1700s and is still somehow alive today?
Yeah. That's the way I'm seeing it too. And also, like you said, I'm not au fait with the wildlife in the area, but, there's always that option.
Yep.
And it's too...
Maybe it was Krampus.
Lots of grandpas.
Maybe he was being a very naughty boy.
Who knows?
Krampus used to hand out coal, so he'd go alongside with St. Nick, so it'd be totally like public shaming. Good kid, bad kid, whack. Good kid, horrible kid, whack in the sack.
In the sack.
So the moral of the story is, folks, be good, or Krampus will beat you with a birch stick and shove you. Fuel. And give you barbecue fuel and shove you into his sack. His big, sweaty sack.
Oh, dear.
Merry Christmas. And on that note, folks, I appreciate you tuning in yet again for another episode of Spooky Town Tales. We are going to ride this Christmas train. I'm going to keep bringing you some more spooky stories. If you're enjoying the show, let me know. If you've got stories, send them in. I'm wishing you all luck with the psycho shopping.
Yeah, and watch out on the roads.
Watch out on the roads.
Out there.
There are absolute lunatics, and we really don't want to have stories about any of you guys being written in regarding ghosts. We don't want you to be ghosts, okay? Nope. We like you as you are. So be safe on the roads, careful at the shops. Try and go first thing in the morning or not at all. See you next week, folks. Stay creepy.
Bye.
Bye.